Cheers, y'all.
Now it's a party. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this fine radio program and video extravaganza known worldwide as the world famous Smokin' and Toastin'.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Smokin' and Toastin' brought to you by mycigarshirts.com. Great shirts on the web for cigar lovers, starting under $20. Mycigarshirts.com because cigars. Thank you.
I'm Cruz Cruiser, and today with me is my guest. Oh wait, I'm not Cruz. And I did catch that comment he made last week that he expects you to not talk, and I will say everything. Dude, I
thought I was going to have a chance to talk this week.
I came on and started listening right as he started saying that, and I was like, really? This is the first thing I hear?
So Cruz is out today. We're doing a show, sans Cruz, if you will. I got Alan Denny and we're not in the studio today. We're actually on location here at Casa de Monte Cristo, smoking cigars, which is a lot of fun, and a lot of fun because we're going to talk about cigars as well, including our reps. These are guests that Alan brought on. So would you mind introducing them?
Absolutely. So this is Dave Brophy. I've known Dave for
the one and only,
probably close to a decade, through different companies that he has represented and been a broker for.
Are you saying I can't hold a job?
No, because you've been with several of them. You've had longevity in this industry. You're probably
good companies I have.
You know, yeah.
That's really
hey,
have.
We can talk about the bad ones here. I have no problem bashing people.
I can't.
Non-disclosure agreements.
No shit.
And this is Belinda Doyle. She's the Vice President of Sales for Toscano Cigars.
Well,
Toscano Cigars.
I'm kind of the chief cook and bottle washer of Toscano Cigars in the United States, but technically business development director.
Oh, that's your title.
I don't know whether that's lesser or more or equal, or that just means that I do a whole lot of stuff.
We need to put in a pool and figure out a better name for your job.
I know.
You know, we've had bourbon savants, we've had luxury specialists, we've had cigar whisperer, whiskey expert. So we need to have a little bit better job assignment.
I think you're right.
The most important question is: are you Dave Brophy's boss?
Well.
Yes.
I'm kind of his work wife this week. You know, I have to make sure he drinks water. I have to look after him, you know.
Every
all
day
of his
starts
other
off
things.
with yes, ma'am, what color, ma'am, how high, ma'am.
I think you're actually, that's a nice way of asking me if I'm bossy. So the answer is yes. Yes, there is a little bossy boots going on there, I suspect. But yes.
So yeah, when Ian asked me to co-host with him probably 2 months ago when Cruz was going to be out of town, I said, I think I know who I want to invite, and it was Dave, and it just so happened that Belinda was traveling with him this week, so it absolutely worked out perfect. Of course, we can't do tomorrow. You're going to see this tomorrow, but it's actually today, and she was leaving tomorrow, so we moved it to Wednesday.
Yeah, this is a pre-recorded episode, and we haven't done a whole lot of those, but we're recording this the day before our normal posting, so I'll still be able to comment on your comments, but you won't hear us talk back on your comments today like we do a lot of times. But that was the price we paid to be able to do this on location and be able to get these two wonderful fine guests in today. Mr. Brophy, who are you representing now?
Current time.
Microphone.
Microphone.
That microphone.
Everybody wants to hear it.
It helps.
So it's funny because you're used to not using a mic, and I'm used to using a mic, so
No, I
probably
was
trade.
in radio for years. That was my first gig out of college, and I decided I actually wanted to make a living. So, but
You do have a face for
Cruz should
radio.
be here
I do
for
have
that
a face for radio.
conversation.
You're absolutely correct. So right now I'm doing Leaf by Oscar and Oscar Valladere cigars, Jetline lighters, Toscano. I just started with last month, and I guess I can make it official now. Starting next month, I picked up Casa Cuevas.
Okay, so you've got quite a few.
I've got 5,
Fingers
which for
in the
me is the
bowl.
perfect number.
Nice.
You know, I've got some that are established, some I can work on. You know, so I got a little bit of everything going on, and it keeps me occupied, keeps me happy, and pays the bills.
I'm a big fan of the Oscar Valdez cigars. As a matter of fact, I grabbed a Superfly earlier. That's kind of a go-to for me recently, but I love a lot of cigars from that company. I'm not real familiar with Toscano, though. Can you tell me a bit about Toscano? How long we've been around? And
Well, a little over 200 years, actually.
that's it?
Yeah, that's it. I know it's a very new company.
Right.
It's a fledgling company.
No history there.
Exactly. Actually, cigars have been made in Italy since the early 1500s, when the, in the time of Christopher Columbus, they were funded by the nobility and all of their ventures. So when they came back home, they would always bring tobacco seeds from the Americas as gifts to the nobility. So cigars were just a rich person's kind of hobby, so to speak. But we were
with disposable income and all that.
Were they
Right on.
smoking Davidoffs?
right. They didn't, and of course, it was an accident actually how our cigars came to be, because we always used the type of tobacco that we use, which is Kentucky seed tobacco, and the tobacco leaves were fire cured, but after harvesting and fire curing, the story goes back from 1818 that there was a bunch of the tobacco that was piled up outside, and the folks that were farming under Duke Ferdinand, who was in charge of the Tuscan cigar operations, whatever, for what was not quite unified Italy yet, I think, at that point. Anyway, big downpour. So all of the fire-cured tobacco got fermented because, it lays there. They couldn't move it.
Right.
Starts to smell, the ammonia and all of that kind of thing. And so the cigars look the way that they do because they wanted to recoup their investment. They don't want to lose all of their money from this damaged crop of tobacco. So the Duke told them to roll the cigars with no binder and very crudely and very small, and that they would sell them to the masses, to the poor people, because surely the nobility wouldn't smoke such ugly cigars that were water damaged, right? Let's just give it to the poor people. So
And a whole industry is born.
a whole industry is born. No, absolutely. So we still
There's an irony there.
there is. So we still roll them in exactly the same way. So they're very kind of rustic looking cheroots. And it turned out the nobility caught on and loved the cigars. They caught wind that these cigars were delicious because the water fermentation really concentrated the nicotine and smoothed out all of the flavors. So we still make cigars the same way today.
That's fantastic. And
Yes.
someone had to be the first one to pick up that fermented tobacco and go,
Let's
I'll smoke it.
Yeah, they were selling it very inexpensively, and there was word that these cigars were actually good.
This is a rustic cigar. Can I show this real close here? Yeah, this is rustic is a good word. This is what I imagine. This is like a Clint Eastwood style in the spaghetti western.
She has a story.
Indeed.
Oh, I'm gonna love this.
Indeed, I do.
So this smells like chocolate.
That's a chocolate one. So Clint Eastwood was, of course, doing the spaghetti westerns, and they were all filmed in Italy and Spain and whatnot.
Hence the name spaghetti western.
Hence
of course.
the name Spaghetti Western, and Sergio Leone was the
Do you mind?
director. No, please do. And he was a big Toscano fan, which at the time, Toscano was actually a product of the Italian government. We were for many years until it was privately purchased by British American Tobacco. And then the company was purchased from British American Tobacco by the Macaferri Group, which owns us today. But anyway, Sergio Leone was a big Toscano fan, and he told Clint Eastwood that part of the role was smoking these little cigars, and he said, absolutely not. And he said, with all due respect, Mr. Eastwood, I'm a very established director, and you're an up-and-coming actor, and if you don't smoke the Toscanos in the films, then I guess I'll hire another actor. So, hence,
They couldn't say
Here
that
we
to him
go.
today.
not
no,
so
they could
much.
not.
Probably get shot
They
by
could
a
not.
44 or something.
They could not, for sure.
Did he become a fan of them, or did he just tolerate them? I wonder.
He tolerated them.
I don't know. He probably just tolerated
Not
them at
his-
the
he's
time.
not his
He's
favorite.
done an interview that he's not a cigar smoker and did not like smoking them in the movies.
Yeah, because you never see him outside of the movies. You never see him. He's not like Schwarzenegger that always has the
Right.
cigar in his mouth.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, after he kind of got out of a lot of those spaghetti westerns, you never saw him smoke a cigar again.
This is so interesting because there's a little, especially on the retrohale, just a little bit of that chocolate.
Yep.
But it's not. It doesn't come across as a flavored cigar. It comes across as a straight tobacco with some chocolate.
I had 100 reservations yesterday, and she kept saying, with coffee, with coffee, with coffee. Do it in the morning with your coffee. And I actually had an ice cold cup of coffee because they had come in, and I just made a cup of coffee before they got there, and I'd set it down. We were, a bunch of people were in the shop, and then they walked in, and I sat over with them to have a conversation with them, and I smoked something else first. What was the one you gave me yesterday?
I think the do it on top.
Yeah. And so I smoked that, and then we'd been talking about it through the whole, and that's like an 8-inch cigar, so it wasn't a quick smoke. And then I was like, all right, I'm going to do one of these. I'm going to do one. So I went and got my coffee, and let me tell you what, take a sip of a little rum or something with the
We
liquid.
should be doing that.
The liquid intensified the flavor in a great way. And with the coffee, it made it fabulous.
Anybody else would like rum while I'm pouring?
Everybody.
Sure. Thank you.
So,
Everybody else.
Just a little smidge, which is
So-
my nickname, by the way.
So I will tell you,
Smidge or a little
this is
smidge?
this is not your typical rum. This is funky rubber tire, funky rum.
Wonderful. I like the chocolate Toscanellos. My two favorite pairings are, like a Dr. Pepper type drink, because you'll start to taste all of these cherry undertones in it. And I make Godfathers. Has anybody ever had a Godfather? You know what that is? You take some kind of whiskey or bourbon. I like mine with bourbon, and you put a little bit of Amaretto di Serrano in it, and it's a very delicious after dinner drink. You have that with one of the chocolate Toscanellos, and I swear it just tastes like cherries. It's really delicious.
This rum, and I dearly love this rum, so please don't take this the wrong way, but it's so rubbery and chemically and funky. This is the St. Luca pot still. I've never seen this before. 8-year aged, distilled in 2006 at cast strength 62%, which is pretty hot.
Yeah, for a rum.
I just smelled it.
Adam,
I think
don't know
I'm
if you can
drunk
get
already.
that from here. Awesome. Adam's wandering around with the cameras today. This is all kind of new, so we're having fun with it.
Yeah, normally there's the two cameras. I'm so used to, because I guess the last 2, 3, 4 times I've been on the show, we've been in the studio, and it's been, the cameras are set, the mics are set, and everything's, it's, I think the last time we did on location was here, what?
I think so. It was before COVID.
Because it was Chris and Cruz were going in, and iPod crashed.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I forgot about that. Sometimes we get pod crashed, and
Yeah.
that's
Things you love about technology.
well, pod crashing is kind of like party crashing. It's when someone comes in and and joins in your podcast that you're not expecting, which sometimes been fun. Like we had Charlie Minato on that time.
Yeah, that was great.
Am I a pod crasher? Because
No.
I wasn't expected. So
No, you guys.
No, you were
just
expected.
invited.
Oh, okay.
Trust me, you'll know when a pod crash happens because it just happens.
No, yeah, we had we were at Stogie's filming an episode. It was like we did it on the Thursday before Wingding of 2019. I was still with EP Curio, and or no, maybe I had gone to. It was 2018 that we did that. Holy cow! And yeah, and so
Starting to show our age.
my buddy Cam was in town, and so it was the 4 of us, and then Charlie came in to do the Wingding and for Half Wheel, and we asked him to be on the podcast, and yeah, he was a really good guest on there.
Yeah.
You should have had him make mojitos.
Yeah, we could have if we'd had all this stuff.
I have to say the rum and the cigar is such an interesting mix. Are you smoking? You're not smoking.
No, I'm smoking the Maestro del Tempe by Ward.
It's an interesting mix because the cigar tempers down some of the rubberiness of the rum, and the rum brings out this bold, like vanilla flavor in the cigar, which is really interesting.
Is it?
It's kind of like, I don't know how to describe the chocolatiness of this cigar, because it's kind of like, the room note is awesome, by the way. Like, this cigar smells great. But it's kind of like, when you put on a flavored chapstick and you expect that flavor, but it's not really that flavor, but it smells like that flavor. It's
so
that's probably a weird,
No,
weird way.
she kept telling me yesterday, you're not going to taste it, you're going to smell it. And the only time I tasted it was when I took a drink. And then in the drink, it was already in my mouth. I could taste more of the chocolate, but I never really tasted the chocolate smoking the cigar. And I'm going to tell you, I enjoyed it.
Really interesting.
Yeah, judge me, I don't care.
Before the show, one of the things you said is, I smoked a chocolate cigar yesterday. And before I could say anything, you said, before you say anything.
I knew where this was going.
I love it.
That was pretty
We've
funny.
all smoked a flavored cigar from time to time, just something different. Or
I've had some with sweet tips and stuff that I've enjoyed. I don't put my nose up on them. The ones that are badly made with basically it smells like they went into Bath and Body Works, like that, I can't do.
yeah, we were talking about this yesterday. I don't like the sweet tips. That saccharin triple dipped with just molasses hanging off the end of it. I don't enjoy that. And we were talking about, I was telling her one of the Deadwoods, when the Leather Rose came out last summer. Well, we got a couple of them, and I was like, it's so similar to pipe tobacco. I really want to smoke one of these, but I don't want the sweet tip. We went in the kitchen and got a clean sponge. We got some water.
Scrub the
and
tip.
we scrubbed the sweet tip off, and me and Del D, we smoked them, and they weren't bad.
So it's interesting because the sweet tip on like the Deadwoods and on the Drew Estate Naturals, like that never bothers me. But the ones that are really cloyingly, like you have some in your humidor, I can't think of the name of it.
Are you talking about the Tatianas?
Yes,
The
those
cafes,
are yeah. Some of the cafes are a little too much as well, but the as far as for my taste. But this one, it's interesting. Is you expect it to be sweet because of the way it smells, and it's not.
I'm trying not to badmouth any of JD's cigars while I'm sitting here, so I know the ones I want to say, but I'm not gonna.
Just so you know, in the post-editing, what I really expect Adam to do is every time Alan talks, I want like this bum 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 music going on behind him, and it'll just cut off when everyone
We
else
should get the
talks.
music from Benny Hill for him.
Oh.
We could do this a little more like a spaghetti western. Everyone gets their own theme within the composition.
Right?
That would be kind of fun. All right, at this point in time, I want to take a short break. We'll be back in just a moment. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to this fine radio program and extravaganza known as worldwide as Smokin' and Toastin'. So we're back here again with David Brophy and Belinda Doyle, Toscano Cigars. I'm having this. What was this called again?
Toscanello.
Toscanello Aroma Chocolato. What?
Oh man.
What is happening over there?
What were you guys saying about pod crashers?
Dude, yeah. So the bondsman
Speak the
got
devil's name?
Yes.
you. Okay. I hooked him up with a real good bail bonds agent, so we're good.
Yeah.
Well, that's how he managed to make it today.
Yeah. What's up, bitches?
I didn't know that out of town.
Yeah. Well, out of town can have many
Well,
meanings.
Huntsville could be out of town.
Fort Bend County Jail, Matagorda County Jail. It's,
So what's going on? I heard you guys are destroying my show.
We
trying.
are doing our best
Excellent.
to discredit your authenticity.
Well, as it turns out, my flight was canceled, and I've always wanted to be a guest on the world famous Smokin' and Toastin'.
You are now a guest on the world's famous Smokin' Toastin'. Have you met Alan Denny?
I have met Mr. Denny. How are you?
I am doing great. It's
Good.
so funny. You come in at the first segment last week when I joined y'all's beautiful little podcast on Facebook. The first thing I hear is you going, and I know Alan's going to be co-hosting, and we'll see how much he's going to talk. He's probably going to say everything anyway.
Well, I was thinking that maybe Ian could get a word in edgewise with you as the host. Yeah.
Not likely.
Not likely, yeah.
So you caught us just in time. We're about to try something interesting.
I'm known for my excellent timing.
Yes. Yes, we're
Well,
going to try something
what are you
interesting.
trying?
I have this Parish Brewing Berliner style beer with Pinot Noir grape and black currant. Look at this. Can we get the camera in on this? I want you to
have
see the
not
color
had
of this.
but I will tell you this: it is from Parish.
It's from Paris. So.
And they are batting 1,000 with me. I haven't had anything from them
this
that I didn't
looks
think was
like-
outstanding.
I mean, it looks like some kind of mixed drink.
Yeah,
It's absolutely crazy.
it does actually. It looks like a cocktail of sorts.
I'm
So
gonna-
stereo. Wow. So yeah. So I thought it'd be fun to just come and sit in on my own show. You guys can do all the lifting. I'll just sit here and make snide comments. It'll be awesome.
Are you guys familiar with Berliner Weiss style beer?
Well, I am.
Yes, I am.
Yes, you
Yes.
are.
Yes, I am.
Always a little bit sour.
A little bit.
And
Well, it's not as sour as some of the like fruited sours can
No,
be.
it's
though.
not. It's not.
You know,
There's a few
more of a
places in
tartness.
town that have iced tea with black currant in it, and I absolutely love that flavor. So I thought finding that in a Berliner Weiss with Pinot Noir grape would be a truly entertaining beer to have on the show. It's so bizarre looking.
Yeah.
It's like if you made a hazy IPA mauve in color.
That's right.
Are you gonna
were
fix, are you gonna fix someone?
Do I get to try one?
Oh, you know what? You weren't on the show just a minute ago, so my
I'm
count
a
is
guest.
off.
You have to
That's
try
actually
guests
really
well.
delicious.
Four cups a segment. That's it.
I have to treat my
4 cups only. There's
I'll,
plenty more
I'll
here if someone wants
reuse
to-
my cup. How about that?
Have you had a chance to try this yet?
This is delicious.
I'm very surprised.
This
It's
is
very berry on the
Yeah.
nose. You know?
Well, it's not a surprise to me as I've drank 2 bottles of it already myself. It's absolutely different. It's barely beer, but it's just enough beer to be there, and it's delightful. It's the currant in there leaves such a great aftertaste on the tongue.
You could have almost had this on the hard seltzer episode.
I'll tell you though, the St. Arnold Raspberry AF is a Berliner Weiss with raspberry, and it is just completely different from
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
They almost don't feel like they're in the same category.
This is it's got a lot of fizz to it as well, but in a Berliner Weiss, that's usually a plus.
Yeah, I was going to say in this case it works, didn't it?
How are you feeling about this,
I like it.
Mr.
I can
Brophy?
see that cleansing my palate between cigars too.
Yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Cruz, what do you think of the cigar?
This is great. This is one of the. Explain this cigar to me because this is one from your box there of.
This is one from her box
Yes.
there.
Okay, so tell me.
Yes. So Toscanellos have been around. Well, we've been making. You weren't here for the first segment, so I must tell
They're
you.
only about 200 years
About
old. as a
200 years
company.
Oh, that's all. Okay.
So in the 1980s, we started making some of the shorter cigars, the Toscanellos, to go with coffee. So all of the typical flavors to go with coffee. We have chocolate, an actual cafe flavor, macchiato, vanilla, grappa, and we have anice, which anise in the United States, which, by the way, if you're smoking like all day long and you have a million cigars in and you want to cool your palate, is about the best thing out there that you can smoke.
Nice.
They're absolutely fantastic. But anyway, these are they all have Ligero leaf. They're actually quite strong.
Yeah.
For a flavored cigar, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually an aroma. It's all food grade extracts in a vapor process, and it's just really nice. You don't really taste anything to the palate, but you smell it to the nose.
Right.
They don't have those sweet tips, the cloyingly sweet tips that.
That a lot of the flavored cigars have.
they just don't. They
That's
just don't.
off-putting to a lot of people.
Well,
though.
it is
Yeah.
to me. I know.
Me too.
I mean, I
I don't
enjoy
like it.
the something from the Drew Estate acid line every once in a while when I'm in the mood for something like that. But I've had the ones before where they have that little bit of honey on the or sweetness on the wrapper, and it throws the whole cigar off for me. But this is now. Let me ask you a question about this, because with the FDA moving to ban flavored cigars, does this wind up being classified as a flavored cigar because of the extract? Okay.
It will. Yeah, I'm hoping that never happens. I'm really hoping
We
that
all
never
are.
happens. But yeah, it would be classified because it does have a food grade extract and whatnot. So sadly,
And
Not
clearly,
only does it make me feel like Clint Eastwood.
No, you don't.
But this
look like
thing-
Clint Eastwood.
This thing I started smoking in the last segment, and it's still going, so I'm at almost 20 minutes on this cigar.
yeah, I was going to say this.
And it's a tiny cigar.
It smokes pretty slow, which is awesome.
well, they're very dense. They're fire cured and then water fermented, and the water fermentation process makes them firm, and the ash doesn't fall off. They don't. You could relight them many times if you lay it down and walk away and come back. They still taste the same. It's really a different smoking experience.
And you
than
said there's no binder in these, right?
binder.
This is just filler and
wrapper.
down to two components. What are you smoking over there?
Classico.
That's the Classico?
This is the one that was actually used in the movies.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
The Classico is 100% Italian tobacco, fire cured with oak. It's our bestseller in the United States. It's really, even our mildest of cigars are still medium. None of them are really particularly mild because when you water ferment and fire cure, you're kind of concentrating the nicotine quite a bit.
Yeah, a lot of
Get a little fuller flavors.
the overall flavor profile.
Yeah, it's got a big flavor to it, but it doesn't. It's the aroma is where the chocolate just seems so intense, but I don't get any of it in the smoke. It's just the room note.
The aroma.
Yeah, yeah.
Very, very interesting.
I like
Learn something new every day, right?
it. So
I did.
right. So is this? I see you have a box of them there. Is that how they're sold in boxes?
5 packs. Many stores actually sell the singles. So we have a core selection of 4 different aromas: vanilla, chocolate, cafe, and macchiato. And you could try any of them in many stores. Buy the singles, see what you like, and then buy a 5-pack later on.
What does a 5-pack of these go for generally?
About $14.
Nice. Well, they're as Ian was saying, they're definitely long smoking. I mean, it looks like something that would take you about 15 minutes to smoke, but it definitely will last longer than that.
Yeah, mine's still going. I like on the back it says strength 1 of 5 and then sweet and velvety taste and aroma, hints of cherry. So you have this little chart here. Is that throughout all your cigar line?
Yes, it is. Every single cigar has some kind of description on it as far as strength and tasting notes and whatnot.
I had that one yesterday.
And this is the 1492.
fabulous.
This is a strength 4 out of 5. Spicy and tangy taste. Hickory with notes of molasses and honey.
Now the 1492 is all American tobacco, and so it's fire cured primarily with hickory. And in Italy, it's a very popular selection, but they call it the Fat American.
The fat
Because-
American.
They do.
They wanted my picture now.
They're a little bit bigger of a ring gauge than the rest of our cigars are, so they call them the Fat American.
Fat American.
Okay, and this is sold as 2 cigars.
Correct.
Now, is ring gauge in European cigar sales? Are thinner ring gauges more common, more sought after, and is the big fat cigar, is that more of an American thing, or is it?
I find so. I mean, usually there you'll find a lot of petite Coronas, a lot of Robustos, Coronas, that kind of thing. I know in the UK they charge their tobacco tax by weight. So a lot of times they're just not going to be bringing in the big ring
Right.
gauges because it's just so expensive. It's prohibitive taxation wise.
Makes sense. It's almost like being in California.
Yeah, California's working on that right now.
It's just
They're trying
ridiculous.
to tax you right out of cigars.
Canada, I mean, the taxation is just ridiculous.
It's getting to the point where California is beginning to run out of things to tax.
So they just add more tax.
Yeah, right. So,
New York is even higher now. They're at a 75% tax.
yeah, it is ridiculous. And
Absolutely
if you
crazy.
think about that all that basically does is put New York tobacconists essentially out of business.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Because if I lived in New York, I'd be ordering everything online. That's just so
Well,
impressive, you know?
If you are driving out of New York State into New Hampshire, on both sides of the road, there are these two giant cigar shops.
Yes.
Because New Hampshire's tobacco tax rate is cha-ching.
Well, yes, because
Wow.
I lived in Boston, and one of my favorite places to shop, although there were a number of cigar stores in Boston I loved, but if I was looking to spend a little money, I would just drive up the 40-minute drive across the New Hampshire border and go to Two Guys Smoke Shop and sit there and have a cigar and buy a bunch to take home. Yeah. By the time you eliminate that tax, you're saving all kinds of money.
It's already paid for your gas and everything else.
Right.
Well, if you live in New York, and there are some shops in New York, they're not all gone, but it's a go in and smoke a cigar to support your retailer while
Right.
you're enjoying a cigar. It's not go in and I need a box of Flor de las Antilles and I need a box of this and the tax rate's just outrageous. So people either order online or they go out of state.
Yeah, it's amazing what that does.
Which is crazy because they tax it so much, thinking they're going to make money, but they're really just driving the cigar profits completely out of the
If you look at
state.
Arkansas as an example, years back when they imposed their tobacco tax, there's all these things right over the border in Tennessee and Missouri and Texas. And when they finally went back to a 50-cent cap, because out of the 11 stores in the state, I think 8 of them had closed. And so, the whole purpose of raising more money just went out the window and went to other states.
Right.
Yeah.
So they put the cap back down to 50 cents, more stores reopened, they got, they're probably making more off the 50 cent than they were, doing it whatever percentage they were. I think it was like
I don't.
55% or something like that, if I remember correctly.
Right.
We've talked about crazy liquor laws on the show before. When I lived in Boston, I used to love this. The Massachusetts liquor laws were that you bought beer, wine, spirits. None of it was available at the grocery store. You had to go to a beer store. I think, what was it? Cappy's, I think, was the one that I used to go to, kind of the specs of that area. And you would go there, you would pick everything up, but they were not allowed to be open on Sundays, except during, because it's a sin to buy alcohol on Sundays, right?
Right.
So,
Well,
except
Texas.
from the week before Thanksgiving through New Year's, when they were allowed to open on Sunday, just the holiest time of the year. But the reason that went down that way is because every holiday season they were losing so much money to people who were driving across the border to New Hampshire, buying liquor and bringing it home. And so they just said it was a purely fiscal decision when they decided to do that.
Right.
And
Well,
for all I know now, it's changed, but that's the way it was when I lived there.
I don't think I think that the reasoning for raising the taxes is different than it used to be. I think it used to be to raise revenue. I think it's now because they just want us gone. I really
Yeah,
think
there's
that they want to get rid of the tobacconists in the state. I really sincerely do. At this point in time, especially, they're targeting and they're coupling us along with it. The domestic cigars, the domestic flavored cigars in particular, and they're kind of, they're saying they're targeted toward children. I don't necessarily agree or disagree. And they're pulling us around with it. That's the business I think that they wanted to go
on
away.
that point. Early on in this show, Cruz came in with a statistic that the government spent, and when the government does a study, they don't spend a few $1,000s on it. They spend a few $1 million on it, right? The government did a study that found that less than 10% of people under the age of 18 smoke hand-rolled cigars.
Well, it was like less than 1%.
Or something. Yeah, it was some
it was
ridiculous
like
amount.
tiny,
They
yeah.
spent money to figure this out.
Yeah.
And then they think, okay, you're marketing these to kids. There's nothing on this that looks like when I was 7 years old that makes me go, man, I want this. Or 14 years old and go, man, I want this. Like, that doesn't even make sense.
When I was 14 years old, I had other things. I wanted to go buy a CD. I wanted to go buy.
Yeah.
Buying a 5-pack of cigars was not even
Right.
Yeah.
I
in the realm of what I
I
wanted
also
to
would
do.
like to point out if we're all familiar with the movie Idiocracy, because I feel like we are going that way a little bit. I also want to point out that a few years back we had this whole Tide Pod thing, and people were stating that Tide Pods look like candy. Did you not realize that every single thing in nature that's brightly colored hurts you? Like that should be like ingrained in us, right? Those Tide Pods look like warning. They don't look like candy.
Well, when you talk about taxes on cigars and cigarettes, I mean, to me, it's really pretty simple how that happens, because there is yet to be a politician who was elected or reelected based on the platform of I'm going to raise your taxes.
Yeah.
But it's really easy, even if you're running for reelection, to tax sinful things.
Sure.
Like cigars or cigarettes or alcohol, those type of things. They can pile up the taxes on those and never get called on it, except occasionally by like the cigar industry when we, had Cigar Rights of America and these other groups trying to lobby on our behalf with this stuff. But it's frustrating because it is discriminating against one particular group of consumers, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's interesting. We were speaking about New Hampshire. We actually, all of our cigars that are in the boxes, so we make 5 to 6 million hand-rolled cigars a year, but we make 215 million machine-made cigars a
Right.
year. The only difference between our machine-made cigars and our handmade cigars, obviously the way they're rolled, all the tobacco is the same. It's all the same care. Going into the tobacco is our hand-rolled cigars just more aged. Obviously, we're going to make those a lot more special. We're going to age them more. But in New Hampshire, if it's a machine-made cigar, there's a 65% tax. That's the only
Really?
cigar, that's taxed in New Hampshire. So when we sell, and we do very well in New Hampshire, our cigars in New Hampshire, there's a 65% tax.
Wow.
So it's not even flavors anymore that they're targeting. It's just specifically machine-made cigars.
New Hampshire's actually targeting the cigars that people are using for other things.
Right.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah. I think that's probably true.
Yeah, and we're kind of caught in the crosshairs of that. New York State also for an individual stick, an individual cigar, it has to be a minimum of $7.
Wow.
Yeah, that's absolutely
Right?
crazy. Like a minimum of $7, no matter
Minimum
what it is.
$7.
Yeah. So much for the dog walkers.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And Zeno's new cigar comes in at 6 something. Right? That's automatically 7.
Yeah.
I didn't like it very much anyway. But
Alan, what percentage of tax do you have to levy on a cigar that you sell?
Oh, it's rough here in Texas.
Yeah.
1 cent per cigar. It's like 1 cent and
1.1, I
one or
think.
something, but it's negligible. And I don't know any shop that I'm friends with the owners, and I'm friends with a lot of them, that, I've got to add that 1 cent. You eat it, and okay, your invoice came in at $8 per stick, and so that means it should be 16. We usually round down to $15.99, and that's where we eat the penny. Everybody
yeah,
does. No
yeah.
one's worried about that
Makes
penny
sense.
to pass it on to consumers. The shops just eat it.
But it's not that way everywhere. I remember
no.
a couple of summers ago when I went and spent a month working in Los Angeles.
Oh, yeah.
And Ian came out. We did a show at the Beverly Hills Cigar
Cigar Lounge,
Club. But because I knew Ian was coming out, I'd gone out there with a little, humidor of cigars that I took with me, and I was out there by myself. I blew through those pretty fast.
Yeah.
So I remember going out and looking at the cigar shops there and going, holy moly. And I called Ian and said, man, you got to do me a solid. I need you to bring me a bunch of cigars. I'll pay you back.
Well, we get a lot of tourists from Louisiana to the shop.
Yeah.
15%.
Right.
Yeah.
And they walk in and they're like, why are your cigars so cheap? Oh, where are you from? I'm
Yeah.
from Louisiana. Or, I think Arkansas is what, 10% with the cap?
That's a 50 cent.
Okay, yeah. Oklahoma is 10% across the board. Those are really negligible,
Right.
A dime on a dollar. It's not that much. 15%, then you start, and a lot of states are a lot higher. I will say it was great to hear that, I believe it was Minnesota,
Yeah, they did
just
put a cap
passed
on.
a cap of 50
Yeah.
cents. And they have had there was a large group of shops. It was kind of like what what Up in Smoke used to be in Dallas, through the Twin Cities up there. And the guy had no choice. People were just ordering everything online.
Right.
And so it's gonna drastically drop.
Yeah,
the prices
so
of their cigars.
my brother lives in Minnesota, and for the longest time, anytime he'd come down through Texas, he's a pipe smoker, so he'd buy a bunch of pipe tobacco on his way back because it gets real expensive there real quick.
So you were talking earlier, you were reading the strength on one of those. So I just picked up another box because I hadn't had that one. And I look on the back and it says 5 of 5. I immediately just grabbed one out. I will say, strength-wise, it hadn't hit me yet. We'll see when I get through, when it gets a little wider. But flavor-wise, this is really, really good.
And which one is that you're smoking?
So this is the Antico?
Antico.
That's the Antico. Okay.
So Antico, interestingly enough, Cigar Journal does Cigar of the Year. Every year they do a Dominican, a Honduran, and a Nicaraguan. And then they have one category for the rest of the world, whether you're Costa Rican, wherever it is. And we won last year Cigar of the Year over some really, really fierce competitors like Byron Atabey and things like that for Cigar of the Year. The Antico is... Classico had been our bestseller. I think Antico is going to eclipse that this year.
So before we take a quick break, I do want to point out one little elephant in the room for me is I'm not used to buying cigars this way. This feels strange to me.
Exactly.
Like this feels very
Yeah.
weird. It feels like I'm buying a machine made or something like that. It's a very just tactily it's bizarre to me.
It's been a very new experience for Americans to get used to it. It's funny, everybody always asks us what our smokers are, who smokes your cigars? And I said, everybody. In most of we found kind of our niche in the United States is we have point of purchase displays. They're usually pretty close to the cash register. And so everybody's going and buying whatever it is they're going to buy normally, and then come to the cash register and grab a few of each for opportunity smoking, meaning that if you're stuck in traffic and you didn't plan ahead, you got a couple in the glove box, right? If you're going fishing, you're on the motorcycle, you can stick it in the saddlebag, not have to worry about it.
So is humidification not as important for these?
Not as important at all because of the water fermentation,
Okay.
not the fire curing. You can humidify them perfectly fine. I don't like any more than 65% on them myself. They get a little milder when you humidify them. So it's funny, you have people that are big Toscano fans that have a big preference one way or the other, humidified or not humidified.
Interesting.
And they'll argue with you about it.
I will also say the ash holds on really well too.
Yeah, so you're saying if you buy a package of these like this is something you can literally just leave in your car and it'll be fine. No, I mean that being with temper because
smokes. I like
because
that.
it does
Yes.
get like 140 degrees in the car out here in Texas. But
So we talked about this yesterday, and Dave and Belinda left me a nice allotment of samples. And so,
I don't want them to know.
okay,
This is where my sample order went, everybody.
Right.
there was one cigar, but I took 2 of them. I put them in a Ziploc bag. Last night before I went home, got in the glove box, and they're in the bottom of my center console glove box, and I'm going to leave them there for a year. And next
just
spring,
see how it happens.
next
huh?
spring, I'm going to pop one out, and we'll see.
If it
what they
works
are.
really well, I can see splayed on the box a little star that says glove box aged.
Right?
If they
the
can
new,
make
the
it,
new trend.
if they
Yeah,
can make it through our summer here in Texas,
Yeah.
Interestingly
Yeah,
enough,
right.
in the New England states, it's they're always telling me that it's the only cigar they can smoke when it's super cold outside, like if you have to walk the dog or
Right.
clean off the car or something like that. They actually will. You can light them; they'll stay lit. They won't explode. They won't do anything bad. They smoke perfectly fine in cold weather too.
Interesting.
Yeah,
We don't have that issue here in Houston.
you could
very
literally.
Well,
Every 20 February.
Yeah.
You could literally smoke one of those for whatever, a third of the way, halfway down, and say, I don't want to smoke it any longer. I'm going to save it for later. Do the usual, cut off the lid end, purge it, and forget about it. Say,
Well,
put it in a drawer.
To our audience, she talks about cut off the lid end and purge it. What that means is, obviously, you take your clips and cut it behind where it's lit, and then you blow through the cigar to purge the stale smoke out of it. That's for those of us who don't know a lot about that.
Pretty cool.
Seriously,
thing.
light it up a month later, and it will taste exactly the same.
That's madness.
That is.
You've got to
that's
try
crazy
it. You've
talk.
got to tell me whether I'm full of it or not. But seriously, it's a strange phenomena.
So you're saying no relight penalty on any of these?
Absolutely.
Nice.
It creates smoking opportunities. I mean, we before Nat Sherman closed New York City, loved that store. They were one of our biggest customers because of commuters. They would carry,
right.
a pack in their briefcase or whatever. So if they get stuck in traffic or whatever opportunity, it was there.
Awesome.
That's one of Cruz's favorite companies. He
We're going to
was really
wrap this and
upset
take
with
take a short break, and then we'll come back with a short segment of tasting of the beer.
Well, welcome back to the world famous
Hi, Mom.
Smoking and Toasting. Ha! Caught you off guard. You didn't know I was going to do that. That's why I asked if we were ready. So,
Okay.
Ian, what do you have for
With
us
your
now?
special guest.
So yes, with our special guest Cruz. Right. So I'm going on a theme here since I brought this this Berliner style with Pinot Noir grape and black currant. I now have Anderson Hill from Boonville, California, Anderson Valley. Sorry, Thribble Currant is what we're about to try, and this is American.
I've had their canned beers. I've never had any of their stuff that comes in a bomber.
This is an American wild ale with natural flavors.
I didn't even
Currant
know they
being one
did
of
bombers.
those.
I've only seen their canned stuff.
Now, Ian, where did you pick that up? if you
This
don't
was
mind
I
me asking?
picked it up at Specs.
Nice.
I picked up a bottle a while back. Let me open that.
While you were at Specs, did you hear a mysterious voice over the playing over the?
I've
PA
heard that
system?
guy. He's awesome.
That guy's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's its own story. But no, I picked up a bottle, and I have a friend of mine that really loves sour beers and Berliner style beers and those kind of things. So I split a bottle with him, and it was absolutely delightful. So I'm going to share this with you guys.
I've got glasses piling up here. I
And
better
I've-
drink faster.
Well, that's okay. This is a short segment. We can do a cleanup after this. So
It just makes me think where the wild things
One
are.
thing that makes me nervous, the more beer I drink, the sexier I think I am. So.
You need a lot more.
That's
Let me
called-
just tell you.
That's called reverse beer goggles.
reverse
It is.
beer goggles.
Yeah.
It's better than beer speedos.
So
That's-
Dave, I
Yeah,
know we've got
it's its
Belinda
own
here,
thing.
but do y'all have any of your other brands have anything new and exciting coming out you want to talk about?
Oscar does have one coming at the show that some are just short of signing a letter of NDA on it, but the packaging is spectacular. I mean, Oscar, like on the Superfly, went off the wall on the packaging, some things like that. This is off the charts.
That's like the greatest.
Yeah, the
cigar
Superfly,
band ever.
and I love that. I love the cigar anyway, but the packaging is always cool.
This is I would put this up with the shock factor, like the original. What was the CAO that had the lights around the Vision or whatever that was
Yeah.
called? Yeah. This is it doesn't have the lights, but what it does have is pretty spectacular.
Little marketing tip for you: if they release like a line extension of the Superfly, it should totally be the Superfly TNT. Thank you. I was a child of the '70s. Thank you.
The way it came out packaged, I thought they were going to do some. They did a Connecticut, and they did the packaging all in pink.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't go along the same, but it would. They should do one and put a purple footband on it and call it the Prince.
I want it set up so that when you open the Superfly box, you get that boom, boom, boom.
And I wanted to do a size called Fred is Dead, but no, very few people in the meeting caught that. The ones of us that were old enough understood it. Some of these young guns are like, huh?
That's what I said.
So, Ian, what is the name of this Anderson Valley beer again?
This is Thribble Currant.
Thribble Currant.
Yes, it's a blast to say Thribble Currant.
It sounds like a Star Trek.
It's just one of those fun words. Yeah, the trouble with thribbles.
Yeah.
See, I can geek out too. This truly unique American wild ale began by taking our brother something's triple. The label's a little ripped, so I can't read all of it. So there's going to be a few somethings in here.
Something.
Something's triple wort from the kettle and adding it to wine barrels to undergo 100% barrel fermentation with wild yeast bacteria. After several months, a healthy dose of black currants is added, and it begins an extended aging process in barrels. Then it's all scrunched up. There we go.
Well,
It has a chance until it has matured and reached the perfect balance of sourness and complexity. Thermal current pours to a deep burgundy color with a bracing sourness and subtle sweetness and hints of oak, dark fruit, and wild berry. I'm a big fan of this.
yeah, I mean, it's really, for a wild ale, it's very drinkable and refreshing. Because sometimes wilds, you're like, okay, I love what I'm tasting, but I don't want
But
very
it's
much
too
of
much
this.
of it. Yeah,
Right,
they can be rich.
And this one is not so much that way. It's very drinkable. It's certainly got that wild ale funk to it, but the currant seems to kind of calm it down a little, which for me at least really
It's
works.
got a great finish, if you ask me. It has a dry, fruity finish, more almost like a wine does a lot of times, like a white wine does. It's also just a paltry 10.5%.
Oh, that's all. Okay. So now you're getting in your zone.
Yeah, no.
I was worried about you with that first beer because it was only like a 4.6, I think.
That was a little out of character for me.
Yeah,
I like big beers.
But it was good too. No, this is delicious, and it is, as all good bombers I think should be, the kind of beer that you would want to open up when you have a friend over, you're sharing it, you're talking about it. It's that
Yeah,
kind of.
and
vibe.
as much as I love this, I don't know that I could commit to a whole bomber by myself.
Right.
It's
Agreed.
exactly that.
Agreed.
You know what
But
I
it's
get
fun
from
to
this? It's like a white wine spritzer.
It's got a little of that. It's got some carbonation. It's got a little bit of that dry finish
Yep.
that you would get from something
A
like
little
that.
bit of bitterness to it.
This is not made by Bartles and James. BJ. All right, that's it for this segment. We'll come back with another 20 minutes.
Oh, and by the
Just a
way,
moment.
I didn't arrive empty-handed. I mean, this is you guys' show. I'm just a guest, but I did arrive with drinking news.
I love that you pod crash with the intensity of I am just a guest.
I am.
Stick with it, man.
Yeah. Oh, but you know what else I got?
What's that?
I have tequila news from Liliana.
So you have drinking news and tequila news? I'm gonna
Yes.
have to come up with a whole nother song.
You're gonna have to come up with a whole nother song. You've got a segment or two to go to figure that out. Maybe something with a little flamenco ukulele. Would that work?
I don't know.
So,
We'll
sorry.
figure something out.
Didn't mean to mess up the end of the segment.
Stay tuned.
We'll be back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the fine radio podcast and extravaganza known as Smoking and Toasting.
Woohoo! It's fun being a guest.
We're
on
brought to you
Smoke on
by
Toast.
cigarshirts.com. Fine cigar apparel for everybody. A little snarky sayings on it for you snarky cigar smokers. And mycigarshirts.com because...
Cigars.
See, you just say because and people know.
Yeah.
There's new designs, by the way.
I have to ask you on this. If I light this at the wrong end, because it looks like if you took the label off of this, it would be hard to tell which end you're supposed to light. Would there be any penalty for that?
There is no right or wrong end.
Okay, so it's just arbitrary.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So let me ask you a question.
Eeny, meeny, miny, moe.
All joking aside, I'm curious. If I cut this cigar in half, would it come unraveled? Or would I have two small cigars?
You would have two small cigars.
Nice.
World War II, production was very big. Toscanos were very popular. All the boys went off to war, and they stopped production because they had far too many cigars. No need to make any more. Boys came home from war, wanted cigars, so they started cutting them in half to keep up with supply while they got everybody back to work and another crop of tobacco and could start making cigars again. So they call it the Cigar Friendship now because you take one of the long cigars, cut it in half, and share it with a friend.
Huh.
Nice.
Will you be my cigar friend, Ian?
We can be cigar buddies.
I can't ask Cruz because he pod crashed us.
This is why I had to show up to keep you guys from getting too cozy during the show.
He Alan Denny'd our show.
Yeah, he
That's
did.
true. That's true. I wanted to see what it was like, you know?
You Chris Hart wannabe.
How is our buddy Chris Hart? Have you spoken to him?
Yeah, we do lunch together almost every other week, maybe once every third week. Work on the social and get together. And he's busy. He had Brendan Schaub on the podcast not too long ago. He's doing them hoity-toity people now. But
Oh, you guys are slowing. I know.
yeah,
Yeah, we have
well,
Alan
he's,
Denny.
man, I'm going to tell you, he had he's put some big names on
Oh, I
Whiskey
know.
Neat. Well, he had William H. Macy on there. He had I can never remember her name, but she played Starbuck in Battlestar Galactica. She's been in The Mandalorian.
Right.
Katie Sackhoff.
Katie Sackhoff was on his show. He's had some big names on there, but he's also doing his own bottling. He's got his own.
I'm sorry, his own modeling?
Bottling.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You know,
I
he's
thought-
got the.
you just blew my mind because I thought
When
you said
Chris
that
Hart starts
Chris Hart was
modeling,
modeling.
the pits of hell are going to
When
open
he starts
up and,
modeling,
Yeah,
yeah.
there's, but yeah, he just stays super busy. I mean, we really have to, for us to do lunch, we have to schedule it like a week and a half out to make sure we're both off and we can get together. And we do it at Ohio every
At
time.
Ohio, yes. Ohio is
Have you been there yet?
No, I have not.
is a sushi place
Yeah.
that's
It's
down
the
south.
best. It's the best sushi south of like one of the expensive places in Midtown or downtown that I've eaten, and it's
it's
all you can eat sushi.
Oh, I love all you can eat.
So during the break, you were telling us an interesting story about a roller that you know of.
Yeah, so one of the rollers at EP Carrillo, the best roller, the fastest roller, he gets the front table. He's not just the fastest, he's the fastest and the best. And he got that position by challenging the woman that was the top roller at the time.
So a challenge, just like
And he
I
goes,
challenge you.
yeah, so he goes to the factory manager and he says, hey, I think I can outroll this person. And it's like, okay, let's try it.
In my mind, they go and throw a cigar down at their feet.
And
You don't slap them with
challenge
the
you.
gloves anymore?
yeah, that's the way it should be.
It's like the glove, but it's a cigar.
And so he had gone to the factory
Looks
manager and
very
he wanted
different.
to challenge the woman that had it. And the way they do it is they roll 3 cigars. Ernesto judges it. They set it up for a couple days later, or when if Ernesto's not in the DR, as soon as he gets back to the DR. Because they roll the 3 cigars, and then Ernesto checks them out, looks at them, makes sure they're. And it's not just let's roll the Robusto. It's usually like a pig or a torpedo, something. Maybe it's got a
Perfecto or-
fantail.
Yeah.
It's going to be a hard cigar to roll, and Ernesto checks them out. Then he cuts them, checks the draw, makes sure that those cigars are perfect, and whoever got the best time, and it's 3 perfect cigars, gets to go to the front table, and then they get a week off with pay. Within the DR, that's a big deal, you know, a full week off with pay. And the guy that's there now, the last time I was in the DR and I was down there with him, and they were rolling something from Crown Heads, and it was something with a pigtail. And so he was rolling the cigar and doing the pigtail, and how fast he did it was absolutely amazing. He rolled the cigar and do the pigtail and have it done in about 25 seconds.
That's absolutely
Yeah, and
crazy.
And I was asking, I asked David, I said, so has anybody attempted to beat him? Not since he got it. There's no one that
no one
can
that
touch
comes
him.
close to that. Yeah.
No.
Just out of curiosity, if he was rolling that fine a cigar in 25 seconds, what does it take to roll a Gurkha? Like 3.5?
Does it take that long?
I'm not. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
I
Like,
mean, have you had the construction of those cigars?
that's what I'm talking
I mean,
about. Must be like 3.5 seconds.
Well, and
That's
the problem is
This is the part of the show where we bash Gurkha
yeah,
because of the
it's
construction.
not just the rolling of the cigar, but it's also with Gurkha. I think the problem is the Buncheros. When they're trying to get it all together, because when those cigars explode, which is the best way, because I think we've all had an exploding Gurkha
Yes.
at one point or another. I know the 3 of us had. I'm not going to bring y'all into this equation, but a lot of that's the Bunchero. It's not necessarily the roller. It can be because they didn't roll it tight enough or they rolled it too tight, but that a lot of times is the Buncheros.
But I will say they've gotten better.
Since when? Yesterday?
Well, the last couple of Gurkhas that I've tried have been an improvement
So there,
over the exploding Gurkhas
but
of
there are
2019.
different levels of Gurkha as well. Like they have their what is it? Their signature line. Their something.
The Reserva?
The Reserva. Yeah, I mean those are rolled in a different place.
Well, a lot.
And
You
higher
would
quality.
not believe how many different factories roll Gurkha cigars. There's a
I
lot.
bet I would.
Yeah, but the Reserva 18s, which I actually enjoy that cigar when it's rolled correctly. Oh, here we go.
So have you got some music for tequila news? This is good. See, this is. So our tequila expert, Liliana
Love her.
Rodriguez, who is awesome, just sent this over this week. She's like, I put together some tequila news. I don't know if you want to use it for drinking news or what. I was like, well, and I read it, and I'm like, oh, no, this isn't drinking news. This is its own segment. So as a guest, I'm proposing a segment on tequila news from what she calls herself our unofficial tequila reporter. But that's bullshit. She's our
Tequila expert.
hands down. I know she's just modest, that's all. According to the May 17, 2021 Norma Official Mexicana list from the Tequila Regulatory Council, there are now 144 companies bottling tequila with a total of 1,497 brands.
Wow.
Tequila has just absolutely exploded. And that's why every time you're in the store and you're on the tequila aisle, there's ones there that you've never seen before.
It's amazing that there's that much blue agave being
Oh, I know.
grown
I know.
in Mexico. Have you watched them take one of those plants down? That is, it. You
It's-
know,
there's an
agave
art
is
to
not
it.
like
Yeah.
a pineapple where you just pick it up. Those are big plants.
Yes, they are. They're huge. The current top 3 distilleries, production-wise, are Destiladora de Valle de Tequila, has 143 brands, La Cofradia with 72 brands, and Tequila Selecto de Amitian with 63 brands. Sorry if I'm massacring the pronunciations there, Liliana. Leaving far behind the traditional Casa Cuervo with 43 brands, and Tequila Sauza, which has 19. And Liliana says, I love this, she says, in my opinion, quantity does not represent quality.
That's a fact.
You go. But 309 brands are now bottled outside of Mexico. 99 brands in the U.S., 71 in Spain, 27 in France, 25 in Germany. So it can still be bottled outside of
Outside,
Mexico
yeah.
and be
But it has to
tequila.
be
But it
produced,
has to be
yeah.
right, exactly.
Right.
And there's a number of other countries that do it as well, including even Holland and the DR and Japan and the UK. Among other news, the Tequila Matchmaker May newsletter mentions that there could be a shortage of añejos in the near future, higher prices or both. The reasons given include the high price of raw materials. A kilo of agave, which is about 2.2 pounds, was worth $4 in Mexican pesos in 2016. Now it costs 23 Mexican pesos per kilo. Because of the pandemic, many people have purchased many añejo tequilas to keep their bars at home well stocked. I certainly have.
Guilty.
Yeah. And a competitor tequila, designed as Cristalino, is now being heavily marketed as smoother or as premium tequila. The Cristalinos are tequilas that have been filtered, usually through charcoal to remove the color. We've seen those, the clear-colored tequila. We've had some of those, in fact. It's filtered through oak barrels. It's filtered to take out the color that it acquires from the oak barrels
Right.
during the aging process. And further, a surge of Cristalino tequilas made with Reposado, aged only 2 months, are now hitting the market. So that's kind of the next thing. And finally, some owners of tequila stores in the town of, I'm going to murder this, Tiaquepaque, Jalisco, have reported already a shortage of añejos. So my advice to you, añejo tequila fans, is buy them now and stick them in your bar because they're likely to be going up. And I'm low on Reserva de la Familia, so.
Tequila news, tequila news. That was time for tequila news.
Oh, I like it. See, I like the minor
Yeah.
thing. That worked. So, Liliana, thank you, our tequila expert, keeping us up to speed.
So did anybody happen to see the post that was in HBS yesterday?
HBS is the Houston
Houston
Bourbon
Bourbon
Society.
Houston
Society,
Bourbon
yeah.
Society. So, one of my, and I'm being so facetious with this, one of my favorite bourbon brands, Devil's River.
Oh, that's bourbon?
They want to say it is. They also want to say they're trucking in water from the Devil's River, but I call bullshit. So, they literally say that they are going down. There's only one spring for the entire Devil's River, and it's way down in the middle of this one guy's ranch. And this guy said they don't come to my ranch, so everybody says it's BS. They have a label for cola approval that is Devil's River Agave Bourbon. Yeah.
What?
That's the same look I had
don't
when
know
I.
what to say about that.
Yeah, and so there is a Wade. Of course, we thought Wade was going to be all over this and just crush them, but apparently the way they're saying it, and there's several spirits companies that have done this. They use the moniker to make their stuff say what it's going to say, but there's a special category that is going to possibly allow this to be approved. But they're scamming people, in my opinion. Yes, Devil's River, I'm talking to you. I believe they're scamming people to make them think that bourbon, for the novice, for the people that aren't completely informed on what bourbon has to be and how it has to be produced.
Does it have to have corn?
51%.
Right.
So, and then the rest of it has to be some other type of grain. That doesn't
Agave's
include,
not a grain.
Agave's not a grain the last
Yeah.
time I checked, but I'm sure it's flavored with agave, or they're putting agave, maybe they're putting agave syrup in when they're fermenting the corn and making the mash. I don't know, but I saw that and I was like, this is just another thing for them to try and rip off consumers.
Ian, when we did the hard seltzer blind taste test, I was actually excited because Founders had that series of agave hard seltzers.
Yeah.
But if you remember, none of them did very well in our taste test.
They were not
And I was
delicious.
surprised because we love Founders beer, so we were expecting, they'd do well. But I don't know if agave's not something that goes with everything.
No, it's not.
It doesn't. You know what I really learned about in the hard seltzer blind taste test was I really, really like beer.
I will say, listening to that podcast, because y'all had Jessica on it, and
Yes.
that of the podcasts that I haven't been on, that was one of my favorites. But I got to tell you, of the ones that did the best job on that was Adam. Adam did a great job,
Yes,
not
he did.
letting y'all know
Oh, yeah.
what.
That was a lot of seltzer. You remember that?
That was
lot of
that was,
seltzer.
what was there, like 20 something seltzers that
I
we
think
tried?
I think we did like 5 segments of 4 each, something like
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
well, some of them
Absolutely
had
crazy.
more than that, and
Yeah.
I will say the only thing I will say is the next time y'all do one of those blind ones, like if y'all do blind lager or blind stout or something like that, y'all need to have your rating system the way you're going to do it, because I was confused.
Well, I always mess it up. We got to do A, B, and C.
No, it's not,
Well,
Cruz. It's not your fault. You're perfect.
Well,
it wasn't
well,
your fault. It's whatever Ian and Jessica decided they wanted to do. That was
well,
wrong.
Listen, I pushed.
I don't believe
pushed
that.
For I pushed for a clearer system, but as you know, there's no arguing with Ian. So.
That's true. That's true. Don't argue
No,
with me.
you know what? I really liked the idea of doing those taste tests where we kept everything blind for the segment, but not having to wait till the end of the show to find out what everything was.
Yeah.
And so that's part of what makes it maybe a little more confusing to do.
The
fact that
tequila
we're
one
doing-
was very interesting too.
Yes, that was all añejo, and we had Adam's wife Brianna was there, and of course Liliana, and that was interesting because you and Liliana seemed to like the same tequilas,
Yeah.
and Brianna and I seem to like the same tequilas.
We have that thing called taste.
I've heard that
Here we
you
go.
describe it that way. Yeah.
Because they came out post the episode that y'all did, but have either of y'all tried? And I know you haven't, but have you tried the flavored Dos Equis yet?
Are you talking about the pale ale, the Mexican pale ale?
No, the actual flavored Dos Equis.
So I'm frightened too because the Dos Equis Mexican pale ale
it's horrible.
is the worst beer I've ever tasted.
Oh, it's horrible. So they have put out it's a 12-pack with 3 of each. I can't remember all 4 of the flavors, but I know there's a pineapple, there's an agave, I think there's a watermelon, and there's something else. So my wife is going to a crawfish boil, and she thinks, hey, it's hot out, crawfish, this will be great. So she bought a 12-pack, and I'm like, honey, you're not going to like these. She's a Dos Equis woman.
Yeah,
but
she likes the Mexican.
She liked
beers,
the
man.
Mexican pale
big
ale.
beers,
Wow.
but she doesn't. And she's thinking, oh no, they'll be great, they'll be great. And so she came back, and she had her little backpack ice chest, and it had 10 of them in it with 3 bottles of Dos Equis. And I was like, wait, you didn't leave here with Dos Equis? She goes, these were so bad, I had to go to the store and buy regular Dos Equis because they were horrible.
Wow.
What kind of beer do you generally drink, Belinda, if you're left to your own devices?
I'm a big pale ale person.
Nice.
Boy, you're gonna hate our next beer.
Let me scoot over here.
I like stouts too.
Oh, okay.
Okay, well
We
then
can be
you might
friends
like it.
again.
Yeah, pale ale, stouts. I'll drink anything that's a heavier beer. I don't like super light beers.
To paraphrase Benjamin Franklin, pale ale is the God's gift to us because He wants us to be happy.
That's right.
Yeah, I said that wrong.
I don't think.
David,
that-
what do you usually drink beer wise if you're
I like IPAs.
left to your own devices?
I go in spurts. I'll find something I like, I'll drink it a lot, and then move on. Right now, I've just been drinking a lot of Pacifico for some reason.
It's a good summer beer.
It is.
Yeah. The cigar is growing on me. This is the ugliest cigar I think I've smoked,
Well, I'm gonna
but it
quote.
is kind of growing on me.
I have to quote somebody. So I had a boss when I first started at Toscano named Anton, and Anton has a great sense of humor, and we had brought a few members of the press to our factory in Lucca, and we picked up Anton at the train station in Florence. He came up from Rome to meet us and do a factory tour with us. And one of the press members had mentioned that it was a very rustic cigar and, not a very pretty cigar. And he made an analogy basically saying, if you meet a woman and she's not so pretty, but she's good at other things, are you going to call her again? Of course you are. So that's how he kind of compared the cigar to that woman. Are you going to call her again? Yes, you are. So
Early and often.
early and often. So he compared the cigars, the Toscano cigars, to that type of woman, meaning that they're not so pretty, but they're fantastic. And it's, you put it in your rotation because they're just delicious.
Great
Gives
analogy.
a whole new meaning
Yeah.
to the Me Too movement.
Yeah.
Well,
Me too.
you know what? It actually sounds much better with the Italian accent, and he's a very elegant gentleman.
Most
so
things
it
do.
was- Yes, absolutely. It was as I'm going over his head to the ladies in the car, going, "I'm so sorry."
But accents are awesome. I mean, Salma Hayek could read the dictionary
Oh,
and I
absolutely,
would listen. I mean,
absolutely.
just amazing, you know?
Of all the factories that I've been to, and going to DR and seeing different factories is great. And going to Nicaragua and visiting some different factories, wonderful. Honduras, that's awesome. But a road trip to Italy to go
Yes.
through a factory,
Yeah, baby.
that sounds like a great factory tour right there.
That sounds like a perfect place to do a podcast on the rolling floor with the ladies.
Is this an invitation?
Challenge accepted.
Hello.
Oh, man.
Yes.
Are you going to roll one?
Oh goodness, I don't have an artistic bone in my body.
I've looked at these cigars, and I
Yeah,
But
I don't
if it
know how
tastes
artistic
good-
you would have to be, right? Yeah.
When
it,
we went-
it has other skills, yeah, right?
When we went to Aladino Cigars, they had us try to devein a leaf, and it turned into. I mean, it looked like a crime scene when I was done.
Yeah.
were y'all using
It
the
was
machine?
terrible.
Were y'all using the machine?
By hand.
Yeah,
They were
their
joking with y'all.
their guys can do it by hand.
Oh,
Though.
the lady was like
Boom.
done.
Yeah,
It was crazy.
I've never seen any of the factories doing by hand. They use the machine.
They had a whole room with ladies doing this deveining thing.
They just couldn't
pretty
afford
cool.
the machines. No, I'm just. Husto, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
But it was so interesting to watch, like the skill level that goes in there. I enjoyed it when I went to Ybor City and watched the rollers because they have. Have you been to Ybor City?
Mm-hmm.
They have all the shops there, and there's always the rollers in the window.
Yeah.
That's a lot of fun.
but the rolling floor staffed by the female rollers.
In Italy.
In Italy, do they do that thing like the old legend of the Cuban
They're rolling
cigars
it.
being rolled on the thigh of a lovely Cuban virgin?
I don't think that the union would
Yeah, probably
sanction that.
Union's not gonna-
But there are 40 women, and there have never been men that have ever rolled Toscano cigars.
Not. Really?
Really?
They have these measuring. There's like a museum inside the factory because you've got 200 years of history, and they had these measuring machines that when they were roller wanted a job, they would measure your fingers in this machine, and you had to have fingers between a certain size, and they did, dexterity tests and things. So, moral of the story is big sausage fingers can't roll our cigars.
I'd be out of
Makes
luck.
sense.
I got
man.
short, stubby
Well,
fingers.
I know if you go into most of the factories, especially in the sorting rooms, there's not a guy to be found. And I do know that Ernesto has told me, and I had to, when he told me this, I had to, I got to look this up. And the visual spectrum of women is better than a man's. So for sorting colors,
Yeah.
the women do a much better job of that. And I know on most of the factories I've been to, there's some male rollers, but the majority of them are females.
I mean, your shirt's green and my shirt's green. There's no difference.
Right.
Is there is the sorting of colors so that the cigars that go into one box
Yes.
will be closer to
Yes.
color? You might get a different box where the color's slightly different.
Yeah, and it might be it's going to be slight, but if you open up 10 boxes and lay them out, you may see a very finite change in color across them. But for the most part, they try and keep those as close as they can. And if you do get some that are way off, those go into a different cigar. You may have a Connecticut that's super, super light. You may have a Connecticut that got fermented just a little longer and it's a little darker, so they'll use those on a different Connecticut.
How many times did you get to visit the factory in the DR when you were working for
I went
EP?
3 times to
That's
Ernesto's.
Well, how big is the Toscano factory?
It's enormous. I mean, I don't know how many square feet, but I mean, there is, we have the best cooks there that literally we would go down and sit, our cafeteria is big enough, and then there's a little side cafeteria. I think there were, 20 of us that day on the tour, and they cook the best food and they serve it with wine and things like that. I can't imagine how many square feet, but it's got to be a couple 100,000 square feet.
So
And that's just one of our factories.
And don't break my heart by telling me they don't do this, but I assume opera music is always playing to make the cigars better.
No.
So
Actually, it's
earlier,
Metallica. They have a deal
Yeah.
with Black. And,
so earlier you said how many Toscanos are sold in the United States or sent to the United States?
Sent to the United States varies every year. Worldwide, we sell.
That's the one I wanted.
We did 216 million at the end of 2019, and we grew last year. So I would say probably about 220 million, maybe a little bit more. And we're growing exponentially again this year. So we sell in 84 countries. The United States is the only country outside of Italy where we self-distribute. So it's quite an honor to be kind of in charge of such a task, considering the fact that we don't do that outside of Italy. So,
Ian, take a look at that. This is the hand roll, and I mean, again, it's not a beautiful cigar. But you know, it is beautiful.
That
That
ash.
burn line.
yeah.
That
Look at
burn
mine.
line and that ash, just
Yeah.
absolutely perfect. I would look at a cigar like this and expect it to burn crooked, just because of the, the sort of lumpiness, the rustic nature.
The
We
rustic
use-
nature.
we
It's
use
not,
that-
I'm going to bring this up to the camera. I want them to see this.
Well, and you look at
Rustic
I
nature
don't
that we're
know
talking about.
for you, Cruz, but I
Which
smoked
camera are
one of
we on
these.
here?
What are the 6 and a half, 7 inches?
Am I in the right spot?
6 inches.
So
Look at the vein.
I'm
on that
smoking.
thing.
This is still the Antico. What?
Antico.
Antico. And so I lit it, and it's it's real small at the tip to light, but I had to touch it up one time.
Wow.
And for a cigar,
That's a user error.
I said one time.
It's because you're talking too damn much.
That's right.
why-
He does talk a lot. That should be enough time for this segment. So let's take a quick break, and we'll come back with the next segment. We'll try your beer at that
Barley
point
wine.
in time.
And drinking meat.
And drinking news will happen. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the fine radio program and podcast and video extravaganza known worldwide as the famous Smoking and Toasting.
Hi, Mom.
Thanks for doing that. Smoking and Toasting is brought to you by MyCigarShirts.com. Great shirts on the web for cigar lovers, starting at under $20. MyCigarShirts.com, because
Cigars.
awesome. You guys have
I
that
can't
like
think of a better reason.
I can't either.
in stereo even. These cigars really do smoke a long time, by the way.
Yeah, the one she gave me, I think she gave all of us one this one right here, which is an 8-incher. I want to say that lasted me almost 2 hours. What time did y'all get to the shop yesterday? Was it around 4?
Maybe a little earlier.
Because y'all stayed till after 7, and that thing took me almost 2 hours.
See, I judge cigars on mine. Like when I'm saying, I live outside of Fort Worth. Yes, Mike, check.
Mike's your friend.
Yeah, so I live outside of Fort Worth. So if I'm driving to Austin, I know what I can smoke is going to take me to Austin. I'm going to test these tomorrow. Thursday or Friday morning. I'm going back to Fort Worth. I don't know that I can get 2 of these in on that trip.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think I'll be able to do it.
It's nice to have one that smokes slow, but you're still getting a full volley of smoke. You're not having to go slow. It's just it's just working for you. So
Yours.
So Ian, don't forget your musical accompaniment whenever.
Yes,
it's
let me
time.
finish pouring. I have
drinking
one more
news.
glass.
So what are we drinking now?
I bought us a.
This
big
looks like a
package.
Clown
This
Shoes.
is the Clown Shoes Josh the Boss Hog. And
This is a
I
barley
have-
wine.
It's a barley wine.
Yes, I have
I
seen
go to Alan
this.
for obscure liquors. When I have questions, Alan's my go-to on any of this stuff now. So
I've been around, see?
He knows all the WTFs.
That's a good way to put it.
And then if there's something I can't find out, I go to the regional whiskey expert.
Yes.
Right?
We
So,
have a whiskey expert.
This is
now
a
on
barley wine ale flavored with plum puree, aged in Whistle Pig Samurai Scientist rye whiskey barrels.
So there's the Boss Hog part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, man, there's a lot on here. So look it up. It's like a whole novel on
Looks
here.
like it says the Surgeon General has determined.
It
that-
says, actually, according to the Surgeon General,
Yeah.
women should not drink alcoholic beverages during pregnancy.
Oh, that's delicious.
I spent my whole life looking like I'm pregnant, so
That's delicious. Really delicious.
Well,
Oh, the nose is interesting. It's very plum.
you would expect.
It's straight. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
It's straight. It tastes like whiskey in beer.
It is not what I was expecting.
Like a lot of times, a barrel aged barley wine will not have such a distinctive whiskey flavor. You'll
Well,
get,
that's right, and you do get the plum, but I was expecting all that deep, dark fruit vibe that you so often get from a barley wine, and this is completely different.
no, this is much brighter than I would expect.
Yes, for sure, both in color and in the flavor.
it pairs well.
It's
does.
actually very refreshing for a barley wine.
Yeah.
You know, usually barley wines are like great flavor, but it's kind of like eating that super rich chocolate cake or something
Yeah.
where you appreciate the flavor, but it's not.
Well, I've
You're not
never
gonna
had
love it.
anything bad from Clown Shoes.
This is
Yeah, they're one of the back before the show started. Clown Shoes is one of the first brands I remember that started showing up with just crazy stuff on
weird.
the shelf.
Yeah.
You know,
them and Dogfish Head were pretty much
Yeah.
the,
right?
pushing the limits. This one is coming in at 11%, so we bumped it up by I think 5%.
Which, by the way,
Last
can I
one.
just, you mentioned Dogfish Head. Can I just for a moment sing the praises? I know how big a fan you are of the 90-minute, but I've been picking up some of the 60-minute down at the little store that they have downstairs in my building. They don't have the 90, but they have the 60. So I've had some. That is a fantastic beer. And it's no more expensive for a 6-pack than, anything else.
I can't possibly naysay the 60-minute, but the 90-minute hits a spot, and I
Yeah.
always have a couple bottles of 120 minutes.
Just for that, when
IPA.
you are ready to just be indulgent.
And if you guys aren't familiar with the 120-minute IPA, it usually tips in at about 18%, 15 to 18%. It's absolutely ridiculous, and it's delicious.
The time frame, the 60-minute, 90-minute, 120, has to do with how long they dry hop it.
Yeah.
Apparently, so it's quite a difference from beer to beer, but they're all really, really good.
Absolutely fantastic. Are you ready? You have your.
I'm ready to go when
You're
you are,
ready to
but
go, huh?
this one cannot be done without the appropriate music.
Timpani.
We're gonna change keys for this because we had the. But now we have to.
That sounds right.
Drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news, drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. I love the look on their faces. They're going, what is going on here? A Florida man with one arm said he had a gator for a pet. When I asked about his absent arm, he said,
Oh, I can't remember yet.
I had to take my gator to the vet.
drinking news, drinking news.
Sorry, I put you on the spot.
Now
you
it's
did.
time for drinking news.
Cheers, y'all. Today's drinking news is not about a Florida man. It takes us to Taiwan. But before we begin the story, I have a question for Alan Denny.
I have an answer.
Do you ever get free meals at Denny's because your name is Denny?
No, but wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah, see?
I'd eat there a lot more often.
Go in for one of those grand slams? Yeah, say. Well, for a week this last March, hundreds of people in Taiwan scored free sushi from a restaurant chain called Akindo Sushiro by legally changing their names to participate in a promotional giveaway, causing a flood of name change requests and making officials beg for them to stop because of the barrage of paperwork. According to the Taipei Times, the sushi chain was inundated with customers who showed up to claim their free meal after legally changing their name to salmon. Akindo Sushiro restaurants reported entire tables full of customers who had changed their name to Guiyu, which translates as salmon. Local media dubbed the event Salmon Chaos, as about 150 mostly young people changed their name with government offices. The diners showed up with names that translated to things like Salmon Prince, Meteor Salmon King, and Salmon Fried Rice, with one man setting a record for the country's longest name ever, which was Chen Loves Taiwan, Abalone, Tuna, Salmon, Snow Crab, Sea Urchin, Scallop, Lobster, and Beef, Mayful, Palais de Chêne, Regent, Hilton, Caesar Park, Hotel Royale.
he's
That-
hedging his
that
bets
was
on
his
that.
Say
name.
that really fast 3 times.
Right.
I really hope he didn't have to sign a lot of checks.
One
I don't want
college
to be behind
student.
him at the grocery store.
One college student said he and his friends had eaten the equivalent of more than $235 in sushi after he changed his name to Explosive Good-Looking Salmon, according to local reports. Another student who changed their name and their friends ate about $460 worth of sushi. The student was quoted as saying, "I do not think we will want to eat salmon again for a while." Officials were less than amused by the food frenzy as people rushed to change their names. While the country does allow people to change their name up to 3 times, Deputy Interior Minister Cheng Sun-yen said that the changes for free food were wasting time and causing unnecessary paperwork. Diners with new names told reporters that they planned to change their names back after the free meal. The application fee for a name change and a new ID card is the equivalent of less than $3 in Taiwan. But one man even claimed online that he learned about the 3 times rule the hard way after his mother told him that she'd already changed his name twice as a child, according to the Taipei Times. Smokin' and Toastin' reached out to Mr. Salmon for a comment, but he has not replied as of showtime. And that, my friends, is your...
Drinking news, drinking news. That was time for drinking news.
Cheers, y'all. Okay, I'm told we only have a couple minutes of battery
But I
time.
got to ask one quick question, though. So if it's $460 worth of that in Taiwan, how much is that at Nobu? $5?
So I think you got to wrap it up here, Ian. I think we are out of...
We're out of
battery.
officially. Well, we went along on a few segments, so that's okay. And I think we got to taste everything we got to taste, even the rum at the beginning. So we will wrap it up. That was Smokin' and Toastin', brought to you by MyCigarShirts.com. Thank you, everybody. David Brophy for showing
Thank
up.
you.
Belinda Doyle, thank you so much. Alan Denny, thank you for hosting / co-hosting, whatever it was you did over there. I'd probably have to ask you what it was, but it made sense eventually. And thank you for podcast.
Cheers, y'all.
Cheers, y'all.
What he said.